I thought in today's video we would kind of do an overview and introduce a little bit of new information that has come to light about this issue with the ACX Crystal and the USS Fitzgerald. Now we're coming up on 10 months or so since this has happened, so it's well out of the general consciousness of folks who haven't paid attention to it. But we do have a lot of new folks, and there's a lot of information, so for those of you who have been with the investigation, just kind of bear with me on this video. The new information is this. I kind of glossed over this article. I didn't really bother to read it when it came out in March, but it does put a new spin on things. The Japanese Coast Guard are now preferring charges not only against the second officer of the ACX Crystal, the cargo ship that allegedly was exonerated, that didn't do anything wrong, but they're also preferring charges against the second officer, let's see if I can speak properly today, of the FITZ. It says, while the U.S. Navy has already taken administrative action regarding the collision of the Fitzgerald, one of the members of the ship's crew now faces possible criminal charges in Japan as the result of a Japanese Coast Guard investigation of the incident. Stars and Stripes reported today that Japanese Coast Guard officials have recommended negligent homicide charges against both the Fitzgerald's officer of the deck and the second officer of the container ship the Fitzgerald struck the ACX Crystal. Now they have a very strange way of charging down here. It's causing death and injury through negligence in the pursuit of social activities and endangering traffic through negligence in the pursuit of social activities. That's a mouthful for a charge. Both officers were responsible for the navigation of their ships at one time of the collision. Okay, so the Japanese, who actually have had the story straight from the beginning, unlike our administration officials, whoever, are going to lay this on both the cargo ship and the destroyer. Now, to recap, we're going to start at the beginning for those of you who are not familiar. We have this issue, 17 June, 01:30 in the morning. The Fitzgerald transiting through a shipping lane off the coast of Japan, apparently with $2 billion worth of state-of-the-art equipment, can't avoid or detect properly. This giant moving mountain, 700-foot-long, 29,000-ton cargo vessel sails out right in front of it and gets plastered on its starboard side. Now, real quick, if you're standing on a ship facing forward, facing the bow of the ship, or in the direction of travel of the ship, the front of you is the bow, the back of you the stern, the right side, your right hand, will be the starboard, the left-hand side will be your port. So, what you see here with this graphic here, you would see the port bow of the ACX Crystal, cargo ship represented there, hitting about amidship on the starboard side of the destroyer. So, here's the story. Now, here's the problem with this. This destroyer, as far as ships go, this size, it's basically a Corvette. This would be the equivalent of taking your normal everyday car out into the middle of a desert and some guy in a semi is 10 miles away. And your job in your car is to not get hit by that semi. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good a semi driver you are, how bad of a car driver you are. That semi is never going to hit that car. It's just not even close. So, this is the story. Now, at this time, when the story came out, the only information that we had to go on was what was being reported in the press, the pictures of the Fitzgerald, and the track of the ACX Crystal. We did not have the track of the FITZ. We only had the track of the Crystal. And that was here. Now, I've tried to bring this up and zoom it in. We've covered this before. The Navy came out within a day and said that the accident happened at 0220 hours local time. However, the Japanese immediately corrected them and said, no, the accident happened at 0130 hours. The strange thing about that is that the calls independently of each other from the destroyer and from the cargo ship to two different entities both occurred almost an hour later, literally simultaneously. Without the two ships having communicated, they both waited the exact same amount of time, that's the same 50 minutes, 50 minutes, to report this accident. Now, the cargo ship, okay, but a Navy destroyer, no way. So up here, and this is kind of important. Now, this is GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, military time. So this would represent 4:17 p.m. to civilians, 17 hours. However, this is GMT, not local time in Japan. You have to add 9 hours. So this would correlate to 0130 hours in the morning local time. Excuse me, this would be 0117. But what we're going to do is we're going to run up to 0130 to the newly reported time of the accident. This was the first thing that set everybody off. It's like, how could the Navy not know the right time, especially over a day later, and report it 3 times from the commander of the 7th Fleet, not just some butterbar spokesman. So I have this slowed down to a quarter speed to give you an idea of how slow this would have been. Even at a quarter speed, it's about 7 times reality how fast these ships would be going. It's just how they do these types of videos reporting, so that you can cover 3 or 4 hours of track in just a few minute video. Now, the greatest thing that we have that I don't think anybody intended is this little tiny white dot of an island up here, because it's a static distance. That island is about 1/3 of a mile long. So when we look at distances out here, we can judge, generally speaking, how far the travel is. And now the icons that they use for the ships aren't correct size, but we can get an idea. Now, the reason I have this slowed down to a quarter speed, and a lot of you who've been with me will know why. These large ships are what they call Class A ships. Military ships, big cargo containers, are required to have on board a system called AIS. This is what they use to track all of these vessels, to see where they are, what they're doing. It's an automatic identification system, AIS. Now, during different events, they report at different rates. There's a base station that receives this transponder signal, and it updates the speed, the direction of travel, and the location of the vessel. All of these vessels are required to have Class A transponders. Boats that you and I have, fishing vessels, little private vessels have Class B transponders. Their reporting rates are very different from Class A. Class A transponders have to have one set of rates for when they are maintaining course and another set of rates for when they are changing course. That's critical here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play this forward. As you can see, we're playing forward there, very slowly. Okay, now as I scroll down here, I want to show you this. This is the reporting rate of the vessel in question. See how the last digit always ends in a 7 or a 2? What that means, it's reporting every 5 seconds. 22, 27, 32, 37, 42, 47. Okay? So this transponder is reporting in 5-second intervals. And this is 0123 hours. This is about 7 minutes prior to the actual collision. Now, the reason I chose this time frame is we can show right here this turn that was made during that time. It went from almost a due east course, 90 degrees, to 69 degrees. So there was a change in course. Yet what I just showed you up there was no change in the rate of reporting. It was a solid 5 seconds throughout the entire event. And I can back this up and show you this again. Back it up here to 41. And here we go. Okay, so here we are, we're moving. I know this is slow, but it's important to understand that what you're seeing here is in fact a false transponder signal. It is a faked transponder signal. Now you see the change here, making the change in direction. There you go. Now, up here, we covered this, there's no change at all. Now, that's perfectly fine if we're talking about a Class B transponder. Class A transponders, okay, and these are required by SOLAS, the Convention of the Seas, have different reporting rates for not changing course or changing course. Okay, anything with a Class A transponder moving 0 to 14 knots is the third one down, reports every 10 seconds. Changing course, it would have to change its reporting rate to every 3 1/3 seconds. So as you can see, there are different dynamics for changing course or not changing course. Class B transponders only have one column. And in fact, the 5-second reporting rate is correlated to Class B SO shipborne mobile equipment moving greater than 23 knots. That's critical. That's absolutely critical to understand. That ship wasn't moving faster than 23 knots. What you were looking at was a spoofed signal from somewhere else. Because up here, there is no dynamic under which any Class A reports in a 5-second interval. So, we know for a fact that the information that was being put out there was spoofed. Now, in this article, now this goes back to during that time, this was before the Navy put out its reports. When we looked at that track, since we saw damage on the port side of the cargo container and the starboard side of the destroyer, we thought the two vessels must have been sailing parallel to each other, both heading directly east, generally speaking, and that the cargo container changed direction. The destroyer didn't notice it and got sailed right into, and that was reinforced here by the captain of the cargo ship. Okay, he actually made a statement to the company that he worked for that they were sailing in the same direction at the time of the collision, and he actually said they were sailing in the same direction as the destroyer was, which then contradicted another statement he said that he didn't know what he hit. So, this is the problem. This is why we have investigated this. And what made it so much worse is this expert, this Stephen Watkins, okay, is an information technology security consultant and master of open source intelligence. Ha 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 ha. Website Vessel of Interest has provided the best analysis of the collision available. Now, this was only 11 days later, before we got into it. Speaking to Foxtrot Alpha, couldn't disagree more with the initial statements of the captain. So even this guy thinks the captain is lying, but he thinks he's lying for a completely different reason. He was making the allegation that the ship was on autopilot. Well, we know now for a fact that wasn't the case. Because later on down that video, if you were to watch it farther, you would see a turn again made back to starboard. First a turn to port, then a turn to starboard, and no change in the reporting rates. So this is what was happening. And according to the Navy, they were actually going to take the bullet on this. They're going to say, yeah, it was our guy's fault. They should have done it. They weren't going after the captain of the cargo vessel. This guy would have had no reason to lie. And under those circumstances, when you have a crossing situation, the ship that is on the starboard would have the right of way. So this is where we're at, and this is how we got here. And just to show you this real quick about Class B transponders, these are the little things you put in your yachts, in fishing vessels. They're not designed for giant 750-foot long, 29,000-ton Class A vessels that literally are either being loaded or moving 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So this is how we got here. And there's been all sorts of stuff. There's 100 videos out there dealing with everything from soup to nuts, the lies from the Navy. They released the captain of the cargo vessel before they even knew the exact time of the accident. And now they're going to try to charge one of their own guys with negligent homicide when they have no idea that they were being targeted. And we showed through our videos that clearly this was an event, an attempt by parties yet to be determined It was an attempt to disable a U.S. naval asset. The fact that it happened again 2 months later, also resulting in the loss of life, to the exact same kind of vessel, an anti-ballistic missile asset in the region right when North Korea was launching missile after missile after missile after missile. And what have we seen now in this exact same region? We've seen the Chinese put anti-ship missiles on islands, on man-made islands, trying to get the U.S. out of there. And I could go into other issues regarding the submarine cables that were more than likely being tracked, what the Fitzgerald was actually doing out there, why it was targeted. This is the story. And this is why it's such a tragic event that they're going to try to now criminally charge 2 Navy sailors and attempt to take one of the junior sailors and give him immunity to testify against a guy that was asleep. It's just beyond the pale. It's if you really are the type of person that when you see someone out in uniform or you recognize someone as a serviceman and you take the time and you go up to them and you say, "Thank you for your service." If you're that kind of person, you need to pay attention to this. You need to not let this stand. You need to write your congressman. You need to tell your mayors. You need to tell whoever you can tell about this. And you need to ask them the questions. And if you want to come up to speed on any issue regarding this so that you can speak about it in a way that's intelligent and informed, there are 100. The Florida Maquis has covered this going back 17 June, all the way through all last summer, all last fall. That's what 99% of my videos are about, and just about every title will have a different point, a different bullet point. They're only 8 minutes at the most. I think they're about 18 minutes at a time. And I did this for a reason, so that you could go to a specific topic, a specific place, and be involved and be informed. And there are some great contributors on this channel. I've said it before, I'm an Army guy. The Navy guys that come here that have supported this investigation are absolutely top-notch, best people out there. I'm sure they will be down in the comments section here. USN for America, USN Brendan, Russ Elder, I forget all of these names all the time. Navy guys that have come here and contributed. My background is human intelligence. I know when people are lying. That was my job. I saw the press conference from Admiral O'Coin, and I knew that in that particular case, what was coming out of his mouth, he didn't believe. And now it's basically come to pass. Logic has ruled the day, at least in that sense. We need to fight for these sailors, though. We need to step up, and we need to start ignoring the crap coming out of the MSM and make this a priority. Like, share, put this on Facebook, put it everywhere you can. It's going to be very, very important that we at least introduce the idea of reasonable doubt so that these guys' lives aren't ruined. So I will leave it there. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.